On this week's episode, Josh Peterson and I talk about the big success for Spider-Man Homecoming at the box office and give you the insight on whether or not it's a movie you should miss. We also talk the Castlevania Netflix series and if it should lead to a reimagining of the series back to home consoles. What is the best direction for the We also talk the best direction for the James Bond films. And is the Fast and Furious series next stop include a trip to outer space? Plus, we have a clip from the latest What About This podcast, a taste from the new show Attack of the Humanikins, and another hit song from Hyperschmidt. Hold on, sorry. Let's start over. Thank you. Yes, that was for you. I'm recording now, please. Thank you. Thank you. And this is the reason why we do not promote the YouTube show. On this week's episode, Josh Peterson and I talk about the big success for Spider-Man Homecoming at the box office and give you the insight on whether or not it's a movie you should miss. We also talk the Castlevania Netflix series and if it should lead to a reimagining of the game iterations back to home consoles. What is the best direction for the James Bond films? We also talk the future of the James Bond films. And does the Fast and Furious series next stop include a trip to outer space? Plus, we have a clip from the latest What About This podcast, a taste from the new show Attack of the Humanikins, and another hit song from Hyperschmidt. Excuse me, one more time. Let me try that one more time. On this week's episode, Josh Peterson and I talk about the big success for Spider-Man Homecoming at the box office and give you the insight on whether or not it's a movie you should miss. We also talk the Castlevania Netflix series and if it should lead to a reimagining on the series back to home consoles. We also contemplate what the best direction is for the James Bond films, and does the Fast and Furious series next stop include a trip to outer space? Plus, we have a clip from the latest What About This podcast, a taste from the new show Attack of the Humanikins, and another hit song from Hyperschmidt. It's a rainbow of podcasting colors we have for you today as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And they were all off screen, just totally trying to mess me up, by the way. Just want to let you know. Because they're my loving family and I love them so much. And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos show. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. I'm here along with my good friend. He is the man, the myth, the legend behind Humanican Media. It's Josh Peterson. Before we get started on all the great stuff we have going on here today, I just want to send a special thank you to each and every listener out there who listened to us for the past 5 months, because for the 5th month in a row, we are #1 again on the podcast radio network, and it's all because of you. Our Monday show, Monday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on the podcast radio network. And also our top 10 rated show, again, #7, it's the PCC Multiverse. That's Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the podcast radio network as well. We now total over 28,000 listeners each month on the podcast radio network. We're truly honored to be a part of the schedule, and it's all because of you due to our success. So we truly appreciate it. Josh, I know he has a couple words to say out there to everyone. And then also, hey, what's going on with all the great stuff at Humanica Media?
Yeah, you can check out the show on Tuesday nights. Other than that, I can't promise any there will be content, but I can't promise you when. I want to say there will be a new Super BS for sure, but other than that, there's a lot of wheels turning right now. So just keep following us on Facebook, and you'll know something soon.
But 5 months in a row, man, this is the #1 show on the podcast radio network. How does it feel?
Good. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it, and we love your support. And yeah. Hey, also, if you would be so kind, review us on iTunes. We would also really appreciate that.
Absolutely, indeed, because if you miss the show for any reason on the podcast radio network, we're available to download and stream off of a numerous array of downloading and streaming options, including, like Josh said, iTunes. And if you do go ahead and you do listen to us on iTunes, please rate us and comment for us. It tells us exactly what is good about our show, and then also what needs to be fixed as well. But we truly appreciate either which way you get a hold of us, either iTunes, Podcast Radio Network, and then also we've got a ton of others, including TuneIn, the ACE Podcast Network, Overcast.fm, Player.fm, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Podcast.com, Mixcloud, the ESO Network, the Tangibound Network, and the Gunny Geek Network as well. And then also, of course, our home site, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. And if you decide to stream or download the show on those options outside of the Podcast Radio Network, because that airs live, as well, almost as live as it can get, considering it's a show that's, recorded beforehand, you will get extra content on the Pop Culture Cosmos channel. So if you do decide to do that, we truly appreciate it. And we throw in a little extra bonus just for listening. So Josh, it's been a great weekend so far for Spider-Man Homecoming. We're going to talk a little bit about that and its great success here in a minute. We've also got some great stuff going on. We're going to talk about the Castlevania series on Netflix and how big a success that was as well, and what that may lead into. Plus, we're also talking some James Bond for you as well, and we talk about what direction that series should go in after some rumors are even flying even more about the series and its imminent future as well. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Josh's show. We're going to have a little clip from Attack of the Humanicans coming this Tuesday to the Podcast Radio Network, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. So got to tune in for that as well. And we're also going to have a great song coming up from Hyperschmidt. Got a little, taste of, a demo of what's going to be going on with the folks at Tiny Titan Studios. Got an interview with Rob McCallum. Got a little bit excerpts from that with some of the guys there. And then also as well, we're going to be talking about the Fast and Furious series to close out the show. So it's going to be a great program for you indeed. We try our best to provide that little array of pop culture out there for you, and hopefully it puts a smile on your face every time you listen to us indeed. So Josh, great weekend for Spider-Man Homecoming. We were worried about, the box office and all that, but as far as going downhill, as far as the summer season, this being the worst ever, but things have definitely turned around the past couple weeks, especially with the huge opening for Spider-Man Homecoming, has it not?
Yeah, I think that Spider-Man Homecoming was the movie that everybody was hoping it would be, which was good because everyone was kind of expecting another kind of disaster in the Spider-Man arena, and it's nice to see that's pulling in such great numbers. And I'm hearing it's probably one of the best Marvel movies up to date, but I'm trying not to listen too much because I'm going to go see it tomorrow.
Exactly.
You
You'll be
saw,
like, la 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 la. I can't hear you. La la la. You know,
yeah,
all that.
yeah, exactly. But you saw it though. Do you think that it merits all the praise that it's receiving?
Well, first off, I will have a full review by the time this goes up on the Podcast Radio Network. It'll be on our page, on our home site, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. But I'm going to give you a sneak peek anyways, and some little kind of spoilerish stuff, but I want to try and evade as much as I can. So Josh will take off his headphones or not listen as best he can on it. But I will tell you, it's really, really darn good. It is the best movie I have seen this year so far. I will say that in a nutshell. It does bring everything very, very well together for the Spider-Man series and upcoming as far as in the future for future iterations of Spider-Man movies. And that's to be expected because Sony wants to set it, this was why they wanted to get involved with Marvel and get the whole thing going with Civil War and put Spider-Man in there at no charge or whatever deal they negotiated that was sweet for Marvel and all that, and bring Marvel back into the fray as far as their whole, at least, initial outing as far as Spider-Man Homecoming is concerned. But this really, really bodes well for the future for Spider-Man movies. It sets up a lot for those movies. If you're there going to be looking for a lot of stuff that might set up the future for the MCU and the Marvel Cinematic Universe overall, for Infinity Wars and all the other stuff going on, Phase 4 and all that, it's not really going to lead too much in that direction. I can't say that as far as in some general terms, but for Spider-Man movies upcoming and for various Spider-Man characters in the universe, it does set up a lot of things going forward, or does leave a lot of open-ended things for the future as far as ways it can go and directions it can lead into. So that's one definite good thing about Spider-Man Homecoming. But I would tell you what, Tom Holland is great in the role as far as him being the quintessential Peter Parker. There's just no two ways about it. He is the best example of it. Sorry, with all apologies to Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. Those two guys, they've tried to do their best playing the role, but Tom Holland is just really shown that he truly encapsulates the embodiment of what Peter Parker at that age, a 15-year-old, a sophomore in high school, is all about. Just truly does a tremendous job in the film of carrying it, because a lot is on his shoulders, literally. I mean, I do say in my review that if you are looking for a lot of Zendaya, a lot of Happy Hogan, aka Jon Favreau, if you're looking for a lot of Robert Downey Jr., and if you're looking for a lot of other things like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that it leads into, unfortunately, that part you're going to be a little bit disappointed on. But as far as pretty self-contained, but I don't want to say origin movie, but as a self-contained movie that sort of embodies the spirit of Spider-Man, it definitely does a great job of that. And you can just see the love and care that Marvel coming in and working with Sony and Columbia Pictures on it, this helps so much as far as with just their little things as far as mixing in there Easter eggs, a lot of stuff that are mixed in there from the past in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then also as well the Spider-Man universe going forward as well. So it does sprinkle in a lot of the past MCU, but also sprinkles in a lot of good stuff going forward as well. It also blends in a lot of 80s nostalgia, so older people, me, can relate a lot more to the movie. Also has great hints of a lot of the John Hughes films gone by, and a lot of 80s nostalgia indeed, and a lot of echoes from maybe Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and a lot of other good stuff from that era is encapsulated within the film as well. Just it really, really is a lighthearted telling of the story, and also shows the importance of Peter Parker's life, not only trying to be the hero that he truly wants to be, but also as well the kid that he is, the high school student that he is, and how important it is being Peter Parker, the high school student as well. So definitely was a pleasure to watch. Like I said, is for me the best film I have seen this year so far. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more iterations. I have seen every iteration this century of Spider-Man, all the 5 previous films, but I have never left the theater excited about going seeing the next one. When I saw them, it was not first weekend. It was always later in the month when I there was just nothing else better to do, and I just wanted to go see it just to see a fresh movie and whatnot. And I came out each time disappointed. Yes, I'm sorry, Spider-Man 2 didn't do it for me as well. I just really just not very, very sustaining as far as in my memory or in my heart as far as those previous 5 films. But with Spider-Man Homecoming, it definitely puts a good taste back in my palate when it concerns Spider-Man, and it has me excited for the future for the Spider-Man series. For the MCU, they're going to have to look other places as far as advancing that storyline. But for the most part, like I said, it was extremely well done in advancing the Spider-Man stuff going forward. Josh, did you have any questions for me that I can vaguely tell you without trying to go too much into Spoilerland?
No. I really don't want to ask any questions. I don't want any expectations. I think that's what happened with Wonder Woman. I think everyone was telling me how good it was, so I was expecting this like killer movie, and then it was okay.
It was a good movie. And you did not say it was a bad movie. I want to put on the record that Josh never said at any time, because my gosh, when he put that on social media, people were interpreting it the wrong way. He always said it was a good film. It just wasn't the very good to great film that people were talking about, correct, in your opinion?
Correct. I think it's just because I went in with such high expectations. Everyone kept saying it was that good. So I don't want that to happen to Spider-Man, because I really love the Spider-Man movies. Not so much the Tobey Maguire ones, but the Andrew Garfield ones I loved. So
and see, a lot of people love Spider-Man 2. That's the thing. You don't love the Tobey Maguire films. Neither do I, but Spider-Man 2, a lot of people have a great affinity for and consider that the best of the 5 so far this century. Yours is Amazing Spider-Man 1, correct?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just I'm anxious to see this new one. So I'm going to see it tomorrow. We could talk about it then.
Okay, fair enough. And like I said, it's I don't know. It's just like I said, as long as you don't go expecting it to advance the MCU part, and just making sure it advances the SCU, meaning the Spider-Man cinematic universe, then you're cool with it. That's the only thing I'll tell you. It does little things as far as the MCU is concerned. Obviously, it has to if you're blending in those mixes, correct? I mean, that you have to at least expect. It has to at some point do little things as far as that's concerned. But for the most part, it is solely focused on trying to advance the Spider-Man films as opposed to moving the Marvel films. And that's not saying it's bad in any way or another. I just want to make sure everybody knows out there that it has a mission of moving the Sony films forward, because it's in Sony's best interest to advance those films as opposed to the Marvel films as well. I mean, they give some love to MCU, but it's more focused on the Spider-Man end of things, as well it should be, because this is basically the new start, a rebooting of the franchise for the 3rd time this century. So it definitely is, in my opinion, it is the best of the Spider-Man movies so far to this point. So I'm definitely appreciating it, it more and more as far as I look back on it. And if you want to read my full review and also what grade I'm going to give it, please check out my full review, which is going to be on popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. Also, Josh is, I know at some point is going to weigh in with his thoughts at some point on this week, either on the PCC multiverse or also as well one of his shows. So check out that indeed, because I know as a big Spider-Man fan, going in, you're definitely going to be very excited to see it. And I think, I don't want to say I know, and I don't want to say I'm sure, but I think you'll be very pleased with it. Will it beat your Amazing Spider-Man 1? Who knows? But it's just going to be a very enjoyable film, I think, for you, and a great experience. So Josh has no questions, and I know he doesn't want to be led too much into spoiler land, but hopefully we can go ahead into more spoiler details on our next time we talk about this, because there is a lot of stuff I do want to talk to Josh about, and also some couple little things that I really want to ask about that I want to get an opinion on. If you have an opinion on Spider-Man Homecoming, if you've seen it already and you really enjoyed it, didn't enjoy it, or if there's stuff that you want to talk about, hey, just believe me, send us a message. We will get back to you definitely. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com, or Humanica Media, Game Source, or Pop Culture Cosmos on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll get right back to you, because we really want to hear that feedback out there, not only on our show, but all the stuff that we talk about on our show, or just a question or something you'd like us to tackle on the show as well. So definitely looking forward to hearing your thoughts, and then also, Josh, I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts as well, indeed. So it's going to be a great show for us today. We're going to talk again, like I said, a little bit about Netflix and the Castlevania series on it, and it's been a great success so far, but will that lead into, or should it lead into, back into a game series back on consoles, as far as a reimagining or maybe something even entirely different? So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Plus, we'll speculate on the future for the James Bond series, which I know is near dear to our hearts. And then also as well, a little bit of taste of what we're going to talk about with the Fast and Furious, and some rumors on where that series might go as well. We're also going to be playing a little taste of the latest What About This podcast. And don't forget, tomorrow, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, on the Podcast Radio Network, it is the show Attack of the Humanicans. That's Attack of the Humanicans. That's Josh's new show right there, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, on the Podcast Radio Network, with exclusive content for that show. Is that correct?
Yes, you'll get exclusive content. We'll play half of it, and then mix in some clips from other Humanica Media shows. If you want to listen to the rest of it, just head on over to iTunes, and it'll be up there for your listening pleasure.
Sounds good indeed. Very, very good indeed. So that's Attack of the Humanicans, Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, on the Podcast Radio Network. And, well, like I said, it's going to be a great episode for you today right here. But first, we've got a great song from our good friend Chad and Hyperschmidt. This is Forsaken, and it's playing right now on the Pop Culture Cosmos. And this is Forsaken right here on the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. And thanks so much for making us number one on the Podcast Radio Network 5 months in a row. I cannot believe it when I'm saying that, Josh. I just 5 months in a row, we are number one on the Podcast Radio Network. And we have over 14,000 listeners to this show each and every month. And I cannot thank you enough. It is not something I'm trying to gloat over or trying to be. I'm trying to stay very humble as far as it's concerned with it. It's just because I just so awesome. I cannot believe it. I have to say it over and over because I just cannot believe that we're actually this high up on the food chain when it comes up to Podcast Radio Network. I remember when we first emailed John Sweeney Jr., the the owner of the Podcast Radio Network, and say, hey, we got this little show, we'd like to put it on the air. It's me and my friend talking some pop culture. I might get some interviews and we'll play some clips and we'll have a really good time. Can you spare an hour? And he's like, after, a few tries, it's like, finally he put us on, gave us a chance, and there you go. So we truly thank John Sweeney Jr. for allowing us on the network as well. It's been truly a great time indeed. And of course, the biggest thanks to you, the listeners out there. So Josh, have you had a chance to check out Castlevania series on Netflix? Because all over social media, it's been doing really, really well. I cannot help but say, I think when Netflix, finally reports the numbers, I think they're going to be very, very happy with what Castlevania did as far as viewage is concerned.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I went to watch it the other night, and it turns out my Netflix subscription is not paid for yet, so I have to fix that. I don't know, expired credit card or something. But yeah, I want to watch it. I've heard good things. I've been talking to people about it, and they say the animation's really clean, the story's interesting. It's not like those typical animes where you get like some really cheesy dialogue, and that's kind of a big turnoff for me when it comes to anime series.
And that's what I was afraid of as well. That would look really bad and sound even worse. As you and I have both indicated, we have seen a ton of anime over the years that has really been of poor quality when it gets, well, like a video game gets ported to the West, correct?
Oh yeah, like Devil May Cry. I had high hopes for that one, and then that just the dialogue was so bad. Or maybe it's the delivery of it, but I watched all 12 episodes, and then I just look back on it, I'm like, this is just really bad, because the dialogue in the games are already pretty cheesy. But so I'm grateful with a series like Castlevania had writers who actually took it seriously, and voice actors, had famous voice actors too, from a lot of stars and HBO shows.
And then also as well, I like the Resident Evil series, which every time that comes out and that drops on DVD, it's just the latest edition. It's just really just poor quality, and it just really that's what gives it bad a name as far as with Resident Evil, as far as all this other stuff that goes on, that they have these serious games and sometimes even a movie that they take seriously and put everything behind it, and then they have all this junk that they attach Resident Evil's name to, whether it's game or movies, and then just throw it out there and see what sticks. And it's really, really bad, similar to what we were talking about with Devil May Cry. But what are some of the feedback that you're hearing on Castlevania when it's now on the Netflix series and available to watch right now?
I'm hearing that it's very violent and adult oriented, which is good. But it's also, if you're trying to pull younger fans into the game itself, it's it can be a little iffy if they're, their parents walk in and see them watch that. But I love the Castlevania games.
Son, what are you doing?
Yeah. But I mean, we need people who will take chances on stuff like that and make people take those stories that we always loved growing up seriously again, because you have people like Stephanie Myers and mostly just her, who are taking vampire stories and turning them into, a lot of teen writers are taking those vampire stories and just making them not scary or cool anymore. But Castlevania has always done a great job of taking that mythos and keeping it interesting, keeping the characters fresh. And this is a new look, and I hope that it brings more games in the future, because I really love those, like the story about the Belfast clan, like the last ones that were on the Xbox 360. I was a huge fan of those games. The Lord of Shadows.
Yeah, and then you have Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and also so many great iterations in the past. That's what I wanted to ask you next, is with all this newfound love and newfound appreciation by younger audiences, because a lot of younger audiences are going to watch Netflix and whatnot, despite the violence and whatever else is attached to it. Let's just put it out there. We know what's going on. Do you think this is going to lead to a reimagining of either some of the great games of the past series, or even possibly new Castlevanias to come?
I hope so. Like, I would love to see new Castlevanias, but I would also love to see what the old Castlevanias would look like had they imagined them today in a 3D, I guess 3D platformer with modern graphics, a fresh take on it. Maybe they can do some things they wanted to do originally and couldn't. But I think that the story in the Castlevania games is the most intriguing part about it. Never mind the puzzles and the combat is cool, but to me it's the story that always pulled me in, just because it was dark and it was interesting, and the characters, you sympathized with them, and that would be really neat to see that come to life on modern consoles.
Because there's so many titles in the series that you could draw from that would make a quality reimagining. They're doing it now with the Final Fantasy series, correct?
Yeah, they're doing it with Final Fantasy VII, and even the like a few of the earlier ones, like Final Fantasy 3, 4, 5, 6, and they turned them into 3D games as opposed to the pixelated 2D platform games from before. But it's still it's still interesting. Like, I would love to see them take, even back when they did Final Fantasy Origins. I like to see like the new opening cinematics that came with these new games back on the PlayStation 1, but if they were to take something like that and make it into a new game, I realize it would take years, but it'd be fun to see. I think a lot of us would love to see those games from our childhood, especially like the original Legend of Zelda games. We would love to see those on a modern console like that. You don't even need to have something new, just give us something. Like, nostalgia sells, like it sells, but when it's being marketed to new people and get them hyped about old stuff, like, that's even better.
It is indeed. And I just want to say, obviously it's gotten a lot of good press and a lot of good vibes, and obviously a lot of views, because Netflix has renewed it for season 2. So it's coming back strong for another season on Netflix. So that tells you right there that there's a lot of keyed interest in this new reimagining Castlevania series. And who knows, it could definitely lead into something even bigger, as far as either reimagining one of the great games in the series, or it could lead to an all new adventure, which would be just as great as well. Either which way, we're not, I guess we're not as bad as far as our opinions on the reimagining of series, because it has toned down in recent years as compared to when the PS4 and the Xbox One first came out, correct?
Yeah, it's evolved quite a bit since the originals came out. Like, I think the originals came out on Nintendo, right?
Yes, but I'm just saying the number of reimaginings period for all game series. I mean, when the PS4 and the Xbox One first came out, there was a race and a rush to get all these older titles reimagined, redone, reskinned, what have you. And now we don't see that many done as in the past. And when it's done these days, it seems kind of special now again. Like they're really taking some care and quality and time into it. And now it's getting to the point where we actually would like to see some ones that game series or games that have not been reimagined done so. Now we're getting back to the point where, well, we always talk about Mass Effect. I'd love to see those reimagined and reskinned and redone. But also a Castlevania series, like you said, it would be great if those were reimagined in some form or fashion, even if a new one is made as well. So definitely looking forward to it indeed. And Josh, when you do get a chance to check out the Castlevania series on Netflix, definitely let us know, and you'll be able to share and even enlighten those people out there even more on the series. But definitely it's been a great hit with Netflix because they did authorize a season 2. So that's great news indeed. What are your thoughts on Castlevania for the Netflix? What are your thoughts on the Castlevania series for Netflix? Please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanican Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. And we're back with Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glasser from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. we just love having you being on the air, listening to us. We truly appreciate it. It's so awesome to have you part of the broadcast here today. And Josh, I want to know your thoughts when you heard the rumors that Daniel Craig might be coming back seriously to the series he once dreaded and said he would slash his wrists before coming back to, I believe was the quote, the James Bond series.
I'm happy about it. I know a lot of people might disagree with me on this. I know Rob McCallum especially, but I think that Daniel Craig has been the best James Bond that's been out there yet. I'm not saying he's the most iconic Bond, but I think he's the best. Like, he took James Bond and took him to an entirely new level, a level that we could actually take seriously. Like, they made him into a kind of a Dark Knight type James Bond films, and those have been continually interesting because they've been building on each other. And
I will agree with you on that. I think his first couple outings were kind of disappointing, and I really didn't particularly care for him at that time. But the way he has evolved, especially Skyfall, was a true brilliant piece of art, and I think it is the best James Bond film on record. I think that has totally changed a lot of people's minds on him as an actor in the James Bond role. Now, that being said, I think Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan would have done just as well if they were given that same kind of material, but they weren't.
See, I disagree with you on that.
It's
just the acting styles are just not. Actually, it would have been interesting to watch, but I think that it just is, as far as Sean Connery goes, the times that those Bond movies were made, if they hadn't been made as cheesy as they were back then, they wouldn't be so iconic. That's the thing. Like, it wouldn't have been. You wouldn't have been able to make a movie like that, and you wouldn't. And thus,
I kind of disagree because I think Sean Connery and Pierce Brosnan have the range to do so, especially Pierce Brosnan. But Daniel Craig has really done a great job in the role lately. Don't give me Quantum of Solace. I'll throw Quantum of Solace at you all day long until
I didn't really like Spectre that much either, but it's I just think that he's the first James Bond that I could take seriously. Even Pierce Brosnan, maybe he has the depth to pull that off, but I don't see it. Like, I have a hard time envisioning it in my head. But I do like that these stories are all interconnected, and you feel like in these movies James Bond actually has something to lose, as opposed to, oh, one girl dies, another girl dies. There's nothing at stake in any of these movies except occasionally his life. But in these new ones, you actually sympathize with him, and you have all these. There's a lot going on. There's a lot at stake. So it's definitely brought an interesting angle to the James Bond series, and I would have been sad to see Daniel Craig at least not finish his obligated 5-film contract that he was originally signed up for.
And I know they were going to, as it was rumored, I know they're going to throw a lot of cash at him. So it's not because Sony doesn't want him to come back, because I definitely feel that they do, even though there's a lot of quality actors who could pick up the role. Idris Elba, basically, who else has been rumored for it? As far as name me some names that are rumored.
Tom Hiddleston,
Tom Hardy, yes. I was like, I was Tom and Tom. I know that.
At one point, Gillian Anderson was rumored for a female James Bond. I don't know whatever became of that.
Yeah, and then there's it's not that they couldn't get a quality actor for it, but Daniel Craig right now fits the role very well for it, and if he can do it just one more time, I guess that's what we're going to have to do indeed, and have to settle for, as long as the series continues in some form or fashion. Because James Bond, yes, I know for a lot of people he still fits a lot of stereotypes from the past that a lot of people are uncomfortable with in this new politically correct environment. But for some of us, that just like the nostalgia and just like the thrill of watching a good spy movie now and then, it's just awesome to see the James Bond series still thriving in this modern age. So it's great that because we've seen franchise fatigue in so many different areas. And yes, Spectre didn't meet the same numbers that Skyfall did, but my gosh, Spectre still did very well numbers wise, and that's why they're continuing to make more and more James Bond films. So definitely some great things indeed. And Josh, I did want to tell you, if you've not seen it yet, check out the trailer for, I believe it's Logan Lucky. Or Lucky Logan. Logan Lucky.
I think it's Logan Lucky.
Yeah. Have you checked out the trailer yet?
I haven't. I was curious about it. I just never clicked on it.
It's one to see because you know why?
Why?
Daniel Craig. That's all I'll say.
Oh yeah, he's the redneck guy. It's like the NASCAR movie.
Yes,
right?
He play. I did not know this, and when I just turned on the, I know Channing Tatum was in it. I know it's a Steven Soderbergh film from the Ocean series. It's funny because they say from the producers of the Ocean series and not the actual one he actually won an Academy Award for. They don't mention that, but Steven Soderbergh's film. New film Logan Lucky has Channing Tatum in it and whatnot. It is about a theft film in regards to NASCAR is concerned, but interesting, playing a role as far as from a supporting standard is concerned is Daniel Craig. And I'm telling you, once you see him in this trailer, it's wild. He definitely is changes your perception of him as an actor as far as his range. And you can see why he wants to maybe veer away from the James Bond role, because if he gets roles like this and he shows off his talent like this, in that brief little montage in the trailer, you can see that he wants to do other things than be able to be stuck in the same role time and time again. So I can understand with that part of it. Maybe he's earned enough money in the James Bond series and it's time to move on to more challenging things as an actor for him. So I can see that. But here's hoping that he at least will step in the role at least one more time before they get someone in there that will hopefully do the role just as admirably. What are your thoughts on the James Bond series? And should Daniel Craig return to the role as 007, Bond, James Bond? Or do you think it's just unnecessary, or do you think it's just a little bit shaken, not stirred? Let us know. You liked how I got that in there. Let us know, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanican Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. We're going to close out the show here right after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. I'm here along with my good friend. He's the man, the myth, the legend behind Humanica Media. It's Josh Peterson. And before we close out the show on a little bit of a different note, I should say, Josh, what's going on with the all-new show, which we got a taste of earlier, Attack of the Humanicans?
It'll be on Tuesday night. I wouldn't actually call this episode 1. It's kind of a test episode. But yeah, we'll have a brand new podcast for you. You can listen to the first half of it, and attached to the other half will be 2 clips from other Humanica Media shows. And then if you liked it, you can listen to the rest of it by heading over to iTunes or Podbean or wherever you get your podcast from.
And that's going to play tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. It is Attack of the Humanicans. It is going to be a great show for you, definitely indeed. And then also don't forget our Friday show. We'll return, Josh and I, and he will have seen Spider-Man Homecoming by that time. I hope, right? Yeah. You already bought your ticket. That's right. The PCC Multiverse. That'll be on 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on Friday on the Podcast Radio Network as well. And don't forget, if you cannot listen to us on the Podcast Radio Network, we're on a ton of streaming and downloadable options, including iTunes. And if you do listen to us on iTunes, let us know, rate us, comment on us. Please just, be kind of gentle, maybe, please. We're trying our best here to try and create a quality show for you. But let us know on iTunes or any one of the streaming services or podcast services that you catch us on. we're just just so glad that you're listening to the show at all, and we truly appreciate you checking in with us each and every week on the program. So, Josh, did you read that little thing that I saw our good friends at MovieWeb posted about the possibility in an interview that was done by one of the people behind the Fast and Furious series that it may delve into outer space?
Yes, I did. I don't know how I feel about that. I gotta watch the new one still, but yeah, it's kind of. I don't see them not doing it, but I would kind of like them not to do it, because then you kind of. It's Fast and Furious rides that campiness that they have. They ride the cheesy action shots and all that good stuff. And I think once it goes to space, it's going to be the death of the franchise. Kind of like when Jason went into space in that Friday the 13th movie. It's going to be just like that. And people are going to be like, oh, hey, this idea is so funny. And now it's stupid. That's how I feel. That's how I feel about it.
I remember that Jason going to space and they're on the spaceship and people dying and whatnot. That was truly funny indeed. It was really bad. It was on the layer of bad. Yeah, I think it reached very high up on the list indeed. It was definitely a stinkeroo. But if it does go and delve into even outer space, where they're dealing with satellites or even trying to get into a space station or trying to either do like a space jet duel or whatnot, a rocket duel, and the absurdity for Fast and Furious only can go so far. I mean, we have seen virtually everything that we could possibly see in the Fast and Furious series when it comes to vehicles and whatnot. So definitely the challenge is there for them in this 9th iteration coming up. So I can understand why the temptation would be there to do something, really outlandish like outer space. But I too am hoping they'll kind of stay away from it. But knowing that series, Josh, I wouldn't lay odds against it. I would say it would be at least a decent chance they could tease something or actually even have a segment emanating from beyond the realm of Earth, so to speak. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it. But then again, like I said, the Fast and Furious series is based off of the ridiculous and the absurd, and that's why people like it, because you can just shut off their brain for a little while, like I did when I watched it, and just try to enjoy how many different ways they can do stunts or how many different things they can do to cars or vehicles, indeed, and all the crazy stuff and the crazy stunts that they do. So going to outer space, I'd say it's not a long shot. I say it's a definite possibility it can happen. And would it be the best thing for the series? No, I don't think it would be the best thing for the series as well. And I'm totally in agreement with you on that realm. But you were saying?
Oh, sorry. No, I was accidentally clicked on mute. But yeah, I don't think that it would be a smart move. I think it would be the nail in the coffin. I think people would stop. It reached that level of ridiculousness where people would be tired of it. It would just and you know what, my dog, sorry, that whole thing with Michelle Rodriguez, I think the future of the Fast and the Furious franchise is unclear right now. So
I think it'll end at 10. If I have to guess, I think it's going to end at 10.
That's what they're saying, but when things start making money, anyways, I don't want to see it go to space. It would be a novelty, but once you go to space, that's it. There's nothing else. I don't even think people would stick around to see like a 2-parter if it was in space. So, well, let's hope they don't go there. But if they will, it really wouldn't surprise me.
What if they do like the Infinity Wars and actually end up as part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Also would not surprise me.
Hey, it's a $1 billion franchise. If they went on, knocked on the door of Marvel and Disney, hey guys, I know Vin kind of has this role for you guys already, but that's off screen, but on screen he can, be right there, right in the middle, and get Thanos and hit him with like, that souped up Mustang or whatnot. How about it? How about it? How about it? Flying through the air, Captain America and all that. Battles right there for you, Iron Man and whatnot, but right in the middle of the explosions, here comes the vehicle. I could see that not happening, but that's a little bit absurd. But when it comes to the Fast and Furious series, it's definitely really out there indeed. So definitely would not be out of the realm of possibility of them going into outer space, but we don't think it would be a good direction for the franchise. What are your thoughts on the Fast and Furious series? Are you done with them? Are you tired of them? Do you think it's going to 10 like we do? And do you think it's actually going to go into outer space? Let us know, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanican Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. Well, it's been a great episode. We thank you so much for being a part of it. Josh, any last thoughts before we head into outer space, into the PCC multiverse later this week on the way out?
No, thanks again for listening. And please, like we were saying earlier, check us out on iTunes, leave a review, rate us, just so we have proof that people actually listen to us. That would be greatly appreciated. I know you're all riding home in your cars or whatnot, probably listen to this on the way home from work. But if you just take the time, check us out, we'd be greatly appreciative.
Indeed, and we would give you a shout out if you want one, indeed, as well, because we definitely appreciate all the listeners that do check in with us each and every week, and the over 28,000 a month that listen to us on the Pop Culture Cosmos show, and also as well the PCC Multiverse. And then hopefully as well, a lot of people will check in on Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, for Attack of the Humanicans from my good friend Josh Peterson as well. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day. Don't go to outer space, please.